Good morning, it's Susan. I'm looking at today's intention. It is April the 14th, and I'm wondering, how did you manage yesterday with determined? We looked at determined yesterday. We weren't moving away from anything, we were just moving towards determined. But we talked about determined for what? You see, you can focus on what you're determined to do, or you can focus on how you're determined to be. And I really encouraged yesterday for everyone to be focused on how you want to be. So, interesting that today what came up when I muscle tested was moving from unrealistic to doable. So you're going, well, wait a minute, Suze. Yesterday you said I needed to be, and now we're talking about doable. How does that work? Well, here's how it works. What is doable and what is unrealistic right now? Now, when I'm speaking with people, I'm hearing a lot of people with really unrealistic expectations for themselves right now. You know, it's interesting because our subconscious mind plays the tapes. And I remember when I began working from home, it's like 21 years ago now, I went from teaching school full time to working at home full time. And what was very interesting is that I had in my head, because I was at home, I had to put a 3-course meal on the table every night. I had to make sure that the laundry was done all the time. I even started like washing walls and floors and things like that. And then I realized what I was doing. And I realized that I was playing the tape of my mom from the 50s and 60s that I had observed of what happened when a woman was at home. Well, here's the interesting thing. I lived alone and I was still insisting on making all of these 3-course meals. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good idea to take care of yourself and make good meals. What I am saying was that I had an unrealistic expectation of myself, that just because I was home, I should be a homemaker as well as an entrepreneur. And so here's the thing. What is actually doable for you? Now, another one of my clients I was speaking with last week, and she said, I just don't feel like I'm being very productive. I'm working from home, but I'm just not productive. And I said to her, you have children? And she said, yes, I do. And I said, so you're homeschooling those children? And she said, yeah, I am. And I said, so you're doing what you would normally do at work, plus you are watching your kids and making sure that they do their homework and that they are online to do their schoolwork, keeping them focused there. Plus, are you also trying to be the homemaker and do all of that because you probably let your cleaner go? And she was like, yeah. And I said, unrealistic, unrealistic. Let's focus instead on what is in fact doable. Okay, now here is another thing that is going to be happening for most people right now is you need more sleep. Why do you need more sleep? Well, because you're working in the front part of your mind, which takes a lot more energy. We're designed to make decisions with our conscious mind and then move them to the back part of our mind where the subconscious runs the program. Well, your subconscious has been trying to run programs for the last month, and the programs aren't computing. And so the conscious mind is going, what's going on here? I have to figure out something else. So it requires a lot more energy to think through everything. I mean, even the simple act of going out for a walk. We can't just go out for a walk. We have to be watching how close we're getting to other people when we're watching. So we can't just relax into that the way that we normally have. You know, meal planning, man, used to be you just kind of went, open up the refrigerator, what do I feel like? Now you have to think about, okay, so the grocery order isn't getting picked up for another 5 days. So we need to make sure, right? Rationing things out. And I'm not talking about deep rationing, but you're having to think through some things. You can't just nip down to the grocery store and pick up something like you did before. Right. So you're having to work everything at the front part of your mind, which is tiring. And so you're not going to be able to be as productive as you were before in many ways. But there is good news, and I'm going to get to that. You see, there are things that are way more doable now than there were before. There's time with family that's way more doable than it was before. There's time for yourself. And if you're saying, oh, not at my house, there isn't, I'm going to, you know what? You're the one that's in control of your time frame. And so ensure that you get time for yourself, even if you've got a busy household at home. What is doable for you? And here's something that I'm really encouraging people to think about. I talked about it yesterday, but you're probably going to hear me talk about it a lot. Your future self, let's say 4 or 5 years from now, is going to be looking back on yourself at this time as your past self. How do you want to remember yourself during this time? Do you want to remember yourself as frantic and unproductive and frustrated and yeah, or do you want to say, I learned this and I discovered this and I made a decision about that? Because however you want to think about your past self 5 years from now will help you focus on what's doable today in your present moment. So, I forgive myself for believing I need to have unrealistic expectations of myself. Let's breathe that in. And now I'll do a permission statement. I give myself permission to focus on what is realistic and doable. Give myself permission to focus on what is realistic and doable. I can beat myself up with unrealistic expectations, and I've done that. I can beat myself up with unrealistic expectations, and I've done that. But it doesn't help. Or I can focus on what is doable. I choose to focus on what is doable. And I see that Marnie's already typed in, it's doable for me to do yoga this morning, and that supports me to be calm. Yes. So what is doable for you today? Pop it into the chat room. What's doable for you today? I'm free to focus on what's doable today Now I have a great big stack of filing because it's my year end as well, and I've been trying to get it all done, and I was, but you know what? It's doable for me to do 10 minutes on that today. I can do 10 minutes. And I've already done it this morning before I came and spoke to you. And so now I know that that is complete. That doesn't have to yell at me for the rest of the day, because tomorrow I can do another 10 minutes. Now, if I find myself with 10 minutes this afternoon or 5 minutes, I can do a little bit more on it. Let's not try to complete the whole thing about anything. Let's focus on what is doable. So thank you so much for joining me today. I will be back tomorrow with another intention for the day. You have a great day. Type in what's doable for you. Thank you, Lynette. Right now is your medication schedule so I can get healthy. Absolutely. If you're having any health challenges, all that's doable right now is to get yourself healthy. Keeping a positive mindset, super important during that time. The online learning and realistic, it doesn't have to happen every day. Yes, thank you, Heather, for that. Let's be realistic. One of the things that we did this past weekend, because it was the long weekend, on Thursday night I said to Phil, it's a long weekend, and yes, there's a lot of things to do, but what would we normally do on a long weekend? And one of the things that we often do on a long weekend or a holiday is pull out a jigsaw puzzle. And so that's what we did. Gift yourself some play time, some relaxed time. One of the things that I've been finding that's doable is that I do like to read, but I was finding that at the end of the day, when I like to read to, kind of relax in the evening, I was tired. And I was having trouble reading new things. So I read a novel, and then I was like, there's all this other stuff that I want to be reading. So I went back to my bookshelf, and I started pulling out old favorites that I just know and love. They're just kind of like putting on a nice warm sweater. And I began reading those. Focus on what's doable. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Suze Casey, and remember, you can and will repattern anything you choose. I am focusing on what's doable for me today, and I'm encouraging you to do the same. Take care.